Welcome to How Women Inspire. Our guest today is Barbara Waxman. She's the founder of the Odyssey Group. She's a highly sought after longevity and leadership advisor, coach, speaker, and author. And I and our organization have had the benefit of partnering with Barb in numerous ways. She is magnificent. Barb translates cutting edge research and collective wisdom in the ways that enable others to understand how the dynamics of our aging world and our aging in the world impacts us, our communities, companies, and the planet. Barbara's leadership as a gerontologist in the coaching field has culminated in a transformative coaching model, entrepreneurship turned inward, the evidence-based 7 lifestyle levers assessment, and the longevity roadmap. We all need this, everybody who's listening here. Barbara is an advisor to the Stanford Center on Longevity, Stanford Lifestyle Medicine, faculty member in Chip Comley's Modern Elder Academy. And Barbara has been such a generous partner. And frankly, when I was building How Women Lead, she was an advisor and board member in the early days. And really, when I talked to so many of you about middlescence, those are Barb's words. She taught me about what's happening developmentally for us in this life stage and what are the implications for that and how we want to develop, show up in the world. Barbara, it's just so amazing to have you here today and to have a chance to really get other people to have a little bit of the Barbara magic.
Oh, what a treat it is to be here. Let's go.
Let's start with something fun. What is your theme song or a song that you listen to on the good days, tough days? What song should we dance to today?
Okay, let's go with first thing comes to my mind is You Are the Sunshine of My Life. That is my touchstone song. It brings me joy, Stevie Wonder, and it is what I sang to my kids when they were little. And I danced to with my older son at his wedding. It's my song. It's my
Oh
heart.
my God, that's beautiful. And those grandbabies that you have two,
I
but
sing it to them
many
very
more
poorly.
coming. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Could we start with you've had such an interesting journey and you're such a breakthrough leader in a field that is so brand new. We're really discovering so much with all of us and having us live longer, right? If you had some challenging or proud moments associated with this that you could share with us.
Absolutely. So, right, the work I do is as a gerontologist, looking at longevity, as an executive coach, leadership, and then the energy required to do both well. And the challenging moments are the moments in my own life when my daughter Jill was 8 years old. Julie, you know this story, and she was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. Lowest point, one of the lowest points in my life. For 2 years, she was in and out of hospitals, and I stopped working. And out of that experience, where as her mom, I became her navigator, I learned about coaching. And that is actually, those were the first steps. I didn't even know what I was doing, taking towards what I've now been doing for over 20 years. So I'd say some of those crucial moments, a proud moment, ironically, that comes to mind is helping usher my mother out of this world. So when she was dying, we moved in with her in New York. As you know, I live in Bay Area. And I just, we were there until the end. And I realized we as matriarchs, she ushered me into the world. And what a privilege, what a proud doesn't quite capture it, but in a way it does, moment
Yeah.
to usher her out. So
To be present and to take that time. It would have been so easy for you to have been too busy to really be there and fully present.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the things that I learned from you so much. Just think about you took the time with your daughter, you took the time with your mom, and you're so in demand, those are big commitments. So you're often talking about the through lines or storylines throughout our life's journey and how they really inform how we show up. Why do you think that's so important, Barb?
So many times when I'm working with people who are either striving for the C suite or they're in it and they're looking for answers, help me find this book, help me do the research, help me with executive presence. And the truth is, the wisdom lives within us from our life experience. We often don't have the tools, we don't have the right questions, we don't have the right setting, the environment. And I do believe that environment drives behavior. And we don't have the respect for our life's journey as the fodder for our authentic, powerful leadership. So I think that through line of the stories of our lives informing where we've been, getting really clear about where we are, and only then can we figure out a plan of where we want to go. Oftentimes people will talk to, I know they talk to you about the same things. Help me figure out what I want to do next, where I want to go. And I say, okay, where are you now? Kind of like Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
And she came to that crossroads and the Cheshire Cat was in the tree. And she said, which way do I go, Cheshire Cat? The cat said, well, where are you headed? She
Yeah.
said, I don't really know. So the cat said, then it doesn't really matter which path you take.
Right.
That through line is your journey.
Yeah. That's such an important reminder. Everybody in this network seems to come to us with, or at some point is in a pivot moment, really in that crucial moment to figure out which way do I go and how do I juggle being smashed between parents, kids, grandkids, a combination of the personal and professional. So you talk about modern matriarchy. What is that? And how does that relate to leadership? How do you connect that?
So there are so many cultures who are matriarchal cultures. They don't get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
I kind of take a play on that because it's not about being a mother. It's about being a matriarch. Women are powerful. So often women think and try to act like men in the workplace in order to get ahead. And oftentimes that works. But the truth is, we are more powerful than men. We have the emotional intelligence that the majority of men don't have. Some do. We've been socialized that way,
Sure.
to our credit, but it also can hold us back. Any strength overused becomes a weakness. So a modern matriarch is a woman today who recognizes that there are three kinds of relationships that are essential to her. The first is intrapersonal. What is the relationship I have with myself? It's being a mother, a matriarch for ourselves. What enables me to thrive? Who are the people who are in? Who are the people who if I can't have them out, minimize? What brings me joy? What energizes me? What depletes me? And what do I care about? So being a matriarch first is understanding how to mother yourself in the best possible way.
Generously, kindly.
That's
Just what we all need to do.
with
Remember.
forgiveness and compassion. And then there's interpersonal relationships, and that is influencing one another. Julie, you and I, you've been my teacher, you've been my friend, you've been my confidant. You're a leader I admire. Hopefully the feelings are mutual, right? So what are the interpersonal dynamics that as matriarchs, I'll use you as a beautiful example, are a powerful and loving, wow, we can do both. Because as women, and you in particular, you use love and power as a palliative, not a weapon. That is what matriarchs do. And the third part of this modern matriarchy, relationship with yourself, relationship with others, is our relationship with the universe. And I'm not solely talking about the environment, although I'm heavily leaning into we need to protect the world in which we live, but also use that energy from the natural world. It reduces your blood pressure to be outside and in nature. It amplifies your ability to impact others. So the modern matriarchy is using all the tools we have as women that are unique and special and making the world a better place, whether that's in our home, in our company, in our community, or even a larger stage.
I love it. I just think when you try that on for size, when you think about yourself in that mantle, any sense of being small or victimized or anything else, really, it shifts your thinking. It really changes your way of thinking about yourself in the world and in leadership. I think so still we're struggling with this definition of women's leadership because it's generally been male leadership models. And so to me, thinking about matriarchy in the way you just described, the whole human kind of approach, I think to me, that's really groundbreaking. I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not asking for a seat at the table. My friends, this is the first generation of us. We have a huge opportunity. We have power and influence and wealth. And we can start building the tables where we get the prime seats. Today, we want to invite you to join us as investors in venture. I know no one's asked you to do it before. It might be something that seems scary or foreign, but I promise you it's not that different than investing in a mutual fund where your retirement funds are. I want you to lean in and just learn a little bit more. How about making the commitment that in the next 12 months, you can give yourself 12 months to figure it out and to take a step? I want to invite you to be part of the new table of power and influence and wealth. You're invited. I want to sit at the table with you because we're going to make big change. We're going to make the world we've been dreaming of. Okay, define middlescence for us. What is it? Who is in it? And what are the implications, Barb?
So middlescence is midlife, and that's not associated with a specific age. So when I say the word adolescence, oh, do you remember when you were an adolescent? You get a hit of a little awkward. I felt like I wasn't a kid, but I wasn't a grown up. My body was changing, my hormones were raging. Well, we now live long enough, and everyone listening to this has read some demographic report talking about we now live 30 more years than we did over a century, a little over a century ago. Well, those years aren't years where we're old and decrepit. Most of those years show up in an expanded middle, which many of us, including myself, suffer from an expanded midsection. Yes, our bodies change, though, as opposed to adolescence in ways that aren't so awesome or easy to maintain. Our relationships morph. We also feel like I'm not young anymore, but I'm not old. So all the qualifiers of adolescence and that reckoning we experience more than once. So adolescence, middlescence, though this time we have the benefit of wisdom if we know how to unearth it. And that's that through line that's so important. So middlescence is a new life stage. It's not a midlife crisis. Wow, what if we lived anticipating that at midlife, we said, okay, when I was in my 20s or maybe early 30s and made all of these decisions, do I need to live by those for the next 50 or 60 years? Are you kidding me? No, it's hard because change is hard. But middlescence is that exciting reckoning time. Some people go through it more than once when you figure things out.
That's new. I didn't know that. To me, I think there's some developmental things that you taught me about that I think are so powerful. And I think sometimes it's different for every different people, right? But if earlier in your career, you're running up the ladder and you're really making the money and building your influence, I think a lot of people get to middlescence. And I think of it as sort of like early mid 40s is maybe the beginning of that sort of moment, but it's different for everybody. But that moment when having an impact, it becomes essential, having an impact on the world around you, changing the negative things that you've experienced, whether it's climate or educational systems. I mean, there's all kinds of things it could be, but the meaning we get in this stage in life, being able to use all the powerful skills we've built and influence and power we have to actually make things change that are important to us, I think is really a really important part of middlescence.
I'd like to add something on to that because you said two really important things. One, you said about the age, somewhere in your 40s is where it has felt to many people, but for many women who have put off where they had always thought they'd be in their career while they were also raising children.
Sure.
Once their children are launched, more or less, we know that's kind of a revolving door sometimes. That's when they are like, now I have the time and energy and focus to lean in. So I would say middlescence often hits women in their 50s, even though hormonally they've felt some of it. They're also having this reckoning. Is it too late for me to go back and show my power? No, it is not, ladies, at all. The world needs us, but we need to show up in ways that will inspire and activate others. Those are just tools that actually with how women lead are in our toolkit. So one is it shows up oftentimes later for women because of this raising children. And now I'm talking about middlescence in the workplace. The other beautiful shift that happens is a shift from, you mentioned early in our careers, we're more about like proving ourselves, making money. And then it shifts at some point to what's the impact I want to have? And what I want to kind of put a pin in is there is a developmental shift. I can't tell you when it's going to happen exactly, but where something inside we say, I don't care so much about what other people think anymore.
Yeah.
Because I realize everyone's just thinking about themselves. That's the bottom line. They're not really thinking about me. They think about me related to them. And then secondly, so if I don't care so much, maybe I'm done proving. Now I want to improve myself. And how do I do that? By knowing what I care about and how I can have impact. So you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about that impact piece.
I love that you said that thing about you talked about raising children, and sometimes I think even about social sector leaders, they will birth a startup or a nonprofit. Like there's all kinds of different ways you are in that generative, loving, caring for matriarchal space in that way. And when you can look up and you have a little spaciousness, I think that's a really beautiful moment. Once you've rested, you helped me through my own transition when I was resting and trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I was growing up. I remember talking to you like over and over again. Same question. Okay, so let's think about like the tools. You have a roadmap that you talk about. What is this longevity roadmap? And you have apparently, if we master 7 lifestyle levers, we're set.
Yeah, yeah.
What does that mean, Barb?
Okay. So there are different aspects to my work. One, traditional executive coaching work. The other, as you know, Julie, as a gerontologist, meaning I specialize and my passion, weird as it may be, has always been adult development and aging. So back when I was in college and majored and did a thesis on perceptions of the elderly, and people would say, "Why do you care?" And then when I started the Odyssey group and started coaching adults midlife and better, again, people would say, "Really? Why do you care?" And then I would talk to them about how exciting it is. And they'd say, "Oh, I guess that makes sense." Now people talk to me and they say, "You're so smart to be in this area." And I'm like, I've just always been weirdly obsessed about aging. So this longevity roadmap, I'm going to be teaching actually a year from now. So anyone who's interested, sign up for my newsletter because I'm going to be sort of sharing breadcrumbs and doing little surveys. It's almost reverse engineering your life. So I'm 61. And when I think about when I'm 100 years old, which by the way is very doable for a healthy 61-year-old woman now who doesn't smoke, exercises regularly, understands lifestyle is medicine. At 100, I want to be able to go to the supermarket, do my own shopping, carry one 15-pound package home. I'm not going to say more than that. About that's good enough. Come home, walk up my stairs, go back down, make dinner, interact with friends and family. So I need to be able to know what I care about, have social relationships, be able to lift weights, be able to balance, be able to get myself places. If I know that now that I want that at 100, I have to do that much more at 61 because we know that everything will decrease from a physiological perspective. So I need to be lifting more weights, right? I need to be working on my balance now in ways that are training for that future event. So this roadmap is going to help people also from a purpose perspective, understand what is the impact I will want to have then and how do I reverse engineer to build this roadmap. So it's really cutting edge. It's based on all of the latest thinkers. Some people might listen to Peter Attia, or there are just a host of them. I'm putting together the blue zones, all of that, but creating it so people can actually use it. It starts with what I offer as a free tool called the 7 Lifestyle Levers Assessment. Stanford University is using it. Others are starting to use it professionally, but I give it away to individuals. It is the foundation of the 7 areas you need to have covered in order to lead a life of impact, joy, and match what we call your health span, is your ability to be independent with your lifespan. Because right now people are living longer, but that last decade for so many people is a decade of decline. That's not what we're aspiring to, right? We're aspiring to living a rich life and going to sleep one night when we're 100 and not waking up the next morning.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what we all want, right? Is to like be good to go and then just not be a burden to anyone, not in sort of those situations where just reliance and embarrassment of all the stuff. I think about for myself, Barb. I mean, you've had if it's okay to say this, you've had a hip replacement, I've had a knee replacement.
two hip
Yeah. Yeah,
replacements.
so stuff starts to need repair. And every time you get set back in your muscle strength, etc., this is absolutely essential to do over and over and over again. You got to keep that roadmap adjusted and
Yes.
alive. Otherwise, you can very easily just get super frustrated and sort of step off. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, I now have a catch-up game that's really painful.
That is a tremendous point. Oftentimes, when I'm speaking IRL in real life, people look at me and say, "Oh, but you seem, look at you, you have it together." Well, I have it together because I invest in what's important. So, my mindset around hip replacements has been we have the technology. I'm going to double down on my physical therapy and doing whatever I need to do so that now I'm 8 years post one hip and about 18 months post the other. So when people ask me, I say, yes, but I have an 8-year-old hip and an 18-month-old hip. Can you beat that? And
Yeah,
they
exactly.
stops people and they say, oh, wow, I never thought about it like that. So we have the technology, put it on the roadmap.
Yeah, just know we just got to keep tweaking. All right. So I often think of middlescence also as this period in time when relationships, especially to other women, become so essential in a way that's different. Because when you're climbing a ladder and raising kids, if you choose to do that as well, you really get to a point where it's very hard to do everything all at once and to maintain true relationships with people that feel like they're at your same life stage and capacity. You have a theory around meaningful connections and relationships and creating that as a superpower. Can you talk about that a little
Yes.
bit?
And my thoughts about that have evolved, in fact. So number one, I don't know how many people have read Vivek Murthy's book about, he was the former Surgeon General of the United States, and he was the first to talk about loneliness, even when you're with other people, and isolation when you're not with other people, as a national health epidemic. So when people are socially isolated, it is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It reduces your life expectancy by over 8 years. Unbelievable. So that
Unbelievable.
isn't enough data to convince people to not only connect, but to connect in a way that's true. We have so many connections that are frankly BS. I have to do this. I'm talking to so and so and I'm just depleted. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
That's been our problem. We've gotten so used to the patterns that have been in our lives that even when they stop working for us, we keep going because we think we quote, here's my air quotes, have to, and we don't. So connection on a very personal level is important for your health. Where my thinking has evolved is it's not only people at the same stage.
Yeah.
Having a multi-generational group of independent or in one group friends and people you're connected to is so enriching. I can't say enough about it. I learn from my elders and I learn from my youngers, and they are
Yes.
both important and essential relationships in my network. So relationships are critical. Relationships I often talk about as currency. It's like a bank account. So they're social currency. And you think about, where do I want to expend my currency, right? If I have a certain amount in my account and I want to build my company or transition, if I'm pivoting to a new role, where am I going to expend that social currency to make a difference? Because if we blow the wad on one connection, we're not left. So it's modulating. And oftentimes a coach can help someone figure out, how are you going to expend your social currency? You also have to think about, where do I want to invest my currency? How many events am I going to go to? How many nights per week will I be out? Because socially, I want to build that currency, but then I look at the relationship with myself and that's counterproductive. So there's the social currency. And then I mentioned before, there's the social currency that gets depleted. Who's withdrawing? And what sometimes an organization is withdrawing from your emotional energy bank so much that you need to leave the role.
Yeah.
And that has happened with a lot of people. since COVID started, really. And I think there's this exciting time and daunting time for people who are figuring out, so what is the right fit for me? Again,
Yeah.
you have to look at the through line. Well, who am I first? So I know what the right fit will be.
Is there a rule that you would say? I mean, I've read things about you can only have like 6 date really, really intense relationships. Like, do you believe any of that? Do you think that there's some math?
I haven't found a specific number because it also relates to, if you think of a continuum, where you are on the introversion versus extroversion scale. So I'm somewhere in the middle. And so I've got my cadre, small group of friends, and I'd probably say I have about 10 friends who are my go-tos. I could talk to them about anything, but there are probably 4 that I'm in touch with all the time. And it's important to have the friend who makes you laugh. And maybe that's not the person you tell everything, but you laugh when I've got my friend who makes me laugh. I've got my friend who teaches me when I speak with her, because she actually works at Harvard, and between East Coast, West Coast, between everything that's the reckonings happening in the world and the very different perspectives, our conversations are much more intellectual. So find out what that feeds me as an individual. I love arts. I love intellectual conversation. I love to be challenged in a safe way. So I don't know that it's the math. I think you have to think about, how introverted, extroverted am I? And then create an investment chart about how you're going to invest in those relationships.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Okay, we've talked about some very specific tools today in this conversation. How do people find you and get access to the tools and the programming that you offer, Barbara?
Sure. So my website, which is my name, barbarawaxman.com, is the best way to either take the 7 lifestyle levers. It used to be the 5 essential elements, and we've added more research. 7lifestylelevers.com, but you can get to it for free on my website. I'm actually starting an exciting program for coaches and organizations who want to be a part of my beta. I'm going to be licensing the 7 lifestyle levers and have already licensed it out to one organization. But I want to collect more insights and experiences. So for a short time, I'm going to be offering it for free to coaches and organizations to use. And in exchange, they'll give me information about how it's going and insights. So that's an opportunity out there for people. So and then of course, Instagram, LinkedIn is a great channel. I post articles, leadership articles, and share things there.
Well, I am an avid follower of you. I mean, I get a lot of content and I don't read everything. I always read everything that you release, Barb, because it is so insightful for this life stage, and you make it so relatable, but it's also so intellectually robust. So thank you so much for your time today. Everyone listening is getting it's a master class in how to think about the pivot and the next phase in life. It's such a gift to have you here. Do you have one last piece of advice or wisdom you can leave people with?
I would say believe the best is yet to be, which is hard to do right now, but we can make it happen. And wherever you sit, you are a leader. So let's get on board. Doesn't have to be a board, but get on board and believe in yourself and the power of what we as women can do and accomplish.
What a gift. So hope-filled, such clear pathway work to be done, and absolutely essential in the life stage that most of our listeners are in. Thank you very much for inspiring us here on this podcast today.
Beautiful. Thanks, Julie.